Hey y'all, it's Lindsey. I want to show you how to make skyr today. What is skyr? I'm not scared of it, but what is it? It is an Icelandic cheese product. It's adjacent to the texture of Greek yogurt, and I've got some right here that is some homemade skyr. It's super easy to make, and I want to show you how to do that today. For just a little context, I have been dabbling in fermented foods for many years. I love the act of taking something and allowing it to grow without a ton of input from me into something that is highly beneficial to me, for my gut, all kinds of things. I've done kombucha, I've done Greek yogurt, I've done kefir, I've done ginger bug, I've done a lot of different things. And I love all of these things. In fact, I still regularly make my own homemade Greek yogurt. But I saw skyr on the shelf of the local grocery store, and I thought, you know, I've seen that in people's grocery hauls in the past. It's kind of a little bit pricey, but it's intriguing that the protein content is so much higher than Greek yogurt. Now, my homemade Greek yogurt is actually higher in protein than what you find on the store shelves, just because I love using Fairlife milk, which has a significantly higher protein content and a significantly lower total carbohydrate content. So this is the milk that I've been using for countless years at this point to make my homemade fermented dairy products. I picked up a container of the Siggy's whole milk plain skyr and started checking it out. I really liked the 18 grams of protein per serving. I really didn't like the 8 grams of carbs, like total carbs. When it comes to fermented foods like yogurts and cheeses and things of that nature, it can be a little tricky to discern how many of those carbs are still actually there versus how many carbs have been consumed over the period of time in that product, because the cultures are still alive and very active. But ultimately, 8 carbs on the label made me feel like that's a bit much. So I started looking into how to make your own skyr. Now, you can get the culture and rennet and do it that way. Sounds like a super cool thing. It was gonna take me a while to get rennet off of Amazon, and I was a little bit impatient. So I snagged a container of the Siggy's whole milk plain skyr, and I tried it out for myself with just that as my starter. I did not buy rennet. I did not buy any other starter cultures, just a plain old container of Siggy's off the shelf that was still within its best by date. Super simple. That produced this container right here, and I want to show you how I'm going to make some more so that I can have that as soon as this runs out, because I think this might only last me about 2 or 3 more days, and then I will have sadness. So I better get started on making more. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to use my Instant Pot Mini. This is a fantastic little size for this project, and I'm just using the original stainless steel liner. Mine does have a lovely dent in it, so be blessed by that. Okay, so I am going to also use 1 full container of Fairlife milk, and then I've got inulin powder right here. This is organic inulin powder from the Micro Ingredients brand. I really love a lot of different products that I've gotten from this Micro Ingredients brand. I'll be sure to link it down below. This is going to help feed the actual cultures that are in my yogurt, or my Icelandic yogurt right here. So that is why I'm adding this. You could probably get away with the sugars that are in the actual Fairlife, which are, there's 6 grams of carbohydrates in this. So it's probable that you could get away with just doing that, but I'd like to really give those little tiny microbes their best shot at life by feeding them some inulin. And I'm gonna use just a very small amount of this in 1 scoop. There is a total of 2.2 grams of carbohydrates, and it claims that all of those are dietary fiber. So 1 tiny little scoop of this in the entire batch. And then I'm also going to be using a couple of spoonfuls of my homemade skyr. I don't know how many batches I can make from the original. It seems to me that the more batches you make, you start to see a decline in those probiotic bugs in those little live cultures. So you have to go back and boost it with a bit of starter again at a certain point. I haven't found the limit yet, so we're just going to keep going with my homemade yogurt. It's kind of like the infinite yogurt making process. You just keep adding a little bit from the previous batch and keep going until it stops working. So here is Instant Pot Mini, and here is my Skyr. I'm going to use a spoon and grab out, it's about one, maybe a little bit more, 2. And then I'm going to add in 1 scoop of my inulin powder. And let me show you the size of scoop on this little guy. It's very small. All right, so here we have 1 scoop. I don't know, maybe a teaspoon, give or take. And now I'm going to add my Fairlife milk. I'm actually going to do this a little bit at a time so that I can kind of incorporate my inulin and my Skyr starter. This does not need to be complicated. You don't necessarily even have to do this. This is just something I like to do so that it makes me feel better. With my first batch, I noticed that it started to really become Skyr within about 4 hours or so. I let it go for a lot longer than that, just to allow as many of those bugs to eat as many of those carbs as it possibly could. And I also found that the tartness of Skyr was way lower than other yogurt products that I've made. Not perfect, but good enough. Grabbing the rest of the Fairlife. I like to pour it on top of the spoon to help eliminate all of that leftover business there so that it gets as many bugs as possible. Brilliant. Pop the lid on. It does not need to be sealed. So I have inulin all over me. That's precious. I'm very simply going to press my yogurt button right here. And I set it for 16 hours the last go around. That worked out really nicely. The yogurt came out really, really delicious. So 16 hours. And then whenever it is all done, I will strain it. My timer is done and it shows yogged, which means yogurt. And let's take a quick peek. It has definitely, not cured, that's the wrong word. It has definitely fermented. So now I'm ready to take this over to the sink and show you my next step. Here is my Skyr, here is a colander, and I'm going to take a flour sack towel. I have half a dozen of these that are dedicated only to kitchen use, but they make fantastic cleaning cloths and all sorts of things, but these are dedicated to food use only. Therefore, they get washed a little bit differently. And yeah, so I'm going to use this instead of cheesecloth because I find this to be easier. And I'm going to take my Skyr and plop it into my flour sack towel. I also find that a spatula or a scraper can be useful in this task so that we don't leave any Skyr behind. Okay, next task, I'm going to tie this up and allow it to hang on a cabinet handle to let gravity help me pull some of the whey from the Skyr. Okay, I'm sure there are easier ways with like actual nut milk bags and all sorts of things, but I use what I have access to. Let's go transfer this to another zone, and I'm gonna use my Instant Pot Liner to collect all of the whey. So right here is my tallest cabinet zone, and I'll just let that kind of settle in and then allow that to just drain. I'll probably let that go for about an hour or two, see what the volume of whey is left over, and then we can contain it and pop it in the fridge. My Skyr has been draining for about an hour and a half, maybe closer to 2 hours at this point. This is the amount of whey that I have drained out. So I'm ready to go ahead and take this and turn it into delicious creamy Skyr that I add to my container. So let's do that. First things first, I'm gonna clear my container out from the this whey. You can save this, put it in smoothies. You can use it to culture other things. This just has a lot of carbs by comparison to the curd portion of the Skyr. So I probably would not consume this, but I would easily add this as a nutritional boost for my girls, like for smoothies or things of that nature. So this is still good quality stuff if you are willing to consume those carbs. Let me go take care of that. All right, here is my Skyr. I'm going to carefully try to roll this out of my container. This is usually art, not science. So we'll see how it goes while I've got the camera rolling. There's lots of little extra bits here that tend to hold on for dear life. We can just coax them down with a spatula. All right, get this tucked away. And as you can see, it looks like a giant lump of maybe cream cheese that's kind of softened or crumbly. But in order to sort of smooth this out, I can either mix it up with a spatula or use a whisk to kind of incorporate it a little bit better, or an immersion blender will turn this into a super smooth, creamy situation. So any one of those options will work well. Pop this into the fridge and consume to your heart's content. I'll see you on the next one.